You saw the rallies on the TV and the two opponents battling it out for each of their country's first possible gold medal in badminton. But Pavilion 4 had all the drama on the sidelines of an epic show with a lot of undercurrents as well as a side wind blowing across the court. A few snapshots from the periphery. The missing Chinese. This was the first time ever, since badminton's introduction at the Olympics, that no Chinese woman medaled in singles or doubles. The shattering fall since London 2012. Then they took 1-2 in women's singles. Limiting the number of entries per nation to 2 seems to have severely hurt China, leading to this decimation. A Chinese family sat in the stadium nevertheless, parents and young toddler children, following the Lindan's loss to Li Chongwei in the men's semis, and hanging around for the women's singles final, an India versus Spain unthinkable matchup 4 years ago. The man would first get annoyed when Carolina Marin raised her decibels and started screaming at regular intervals. But it was when Indians in the crowd forgot about keeping it quiet during rallies and chanted in IAAAA that the Chinese had had enough. When the 5th or 6th wave of cheering started, he threw his hands in the air and shouted a frustrated, desperate "Shut up!" Nobody heard. When the mighty had fallen, shuttle changes. The chair umpire was monitoring the various mental tactics that come uninvited when Carolina Marin is on show. There was the time wasting, the shoelace tying of Sindhu, both girls toweling down, and finally the famous Marin yells of roaring gusto. Like Sheldon Cooper knocking on Penny's door, the chair umpire Aussie Kelly Hoare would go, "Carolina, Carolina, 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 Carolina," before the spaniard would bother to turn back and listen to the class teacher-like umpire. It's a legendary tactic that's played out across Denmark and Indonesia, the spaniard strolling away from the chair, unheeding to the umpire's unofficial warnings. There's nothing the helpless chair can do really. It's not like she can get off her high chair to chastise the 23-year-old. It's almost always hilarious as Marin renders umpires helpless, and manages to annoy the top judge. Sindhu petitions PB. Sindhu ended the match on a glorious note, picking Marin's racket, keeping it to the side and hugging her. But during the match, there were less than affable feelings brimming below the surface. Twice she would go complain to the chair, and it's yet another tactic that's subtly used to lay the ground for future sanctions against an opponent. Though her request, whatever she was complaining about, weren't heeded immediately, it always stays in the mind of the judge, who is a noisy girl on the other side using every trick in the book and inviting castigation. Had no impact on the final result, but Sindhu the polite girl was learning the tricks too. Fast or slow. When crowded final halls host big matches, there's always an impact on the shuttles. People breathing deep makes the atmosphere denser and shuttles start traveling slow in dense zones. On an average, 50 to 60 shuttles in 5 to 6 battles get used in the course of a match. And so it is ensured that all the shuttles used have more or less the same speed. Players don't stop trying their luck. Not very cerebral. The days of Lindan, Peter Gade and Taufeeq Hidayat may be gone from badminton when the sport had thinking players. In the women's games, it has mostly been predictable patterns over the years, with the Chinese not drifting too far off from the winning formula. But badminton awaits its new thinker on court. On the final day, Sindhu played straight off instinct, used fast strokes, serving too quick and not much of a change in strategy. Carolina Marin is the world's best player at the moment because she thinks better than most. But it helps that she has a natural game where she changes pace of their rally, even though the shouts and shrieks drown out all the genius. Lindan lost only because he's old now, but he had the ability to play the game according to situation. Men's champ Chen Long has that natural slow pace and thrives on the sudden big explosive kill. Sindhu, like Dan against Sritens, needed to outthink the third game against Marin, and had it reached 17-all, she would have thrown herself into winning. Though, as it happened, an error from her would make it 14-17 instead of 15-16 in the decider. Easily the turning point of the game from which Sindhu could never recover. Marin's nerves, her shrieking, is a means of intimidation, while Sindhu's was to motivate herself. Still, the Spaniard, easily operating at a higher level than the rest of the field, wasn't without nerves. It was Marin's pressure, how she became tight at the closing of the first game, that gave Sindhu the opening to take the first set. Very few winners were scored on either side apart from the brilliant long rallies where Sindhu outshone Marin. It was an error-strewn final. In fact, Marin was at 80 to 90% of what she usually is, as the pressure to win gold was immense on her. Everything forehand that never went the same way, and the strokes that got her to 19 to 16 in the first, were the same ones she botched, losing the opener and pointing to nerves. Even an amazing 50 to stroke rally from Sindhu though couldn't stop the Spaniard from winning.